They are the campaigners who say that they're trying to save the planet, blocking motorways, city centres and factories for what they say is the greater good. But Lincolnshire's Police and Crime Commissioner isn't impressed. Mark Jones says that they should be treated as domestic terrorists and dealt with swiftly and robustly. Jake Zuckerman has this report.
Blocking roads, climbing aerial platforms and stopping trains in their tracks. Peaceful protests have become ever more eye-catching, ever more disruptive. This week, one group brought London's M25 to a standstill as police looked on.
And if any of you are in any discomfort or need anything, just let me know.
That's prompted the politician in charge of Lincolnshire's police to take to social media, calling their actions domestic terrorism and saying that it should be treated as such, swiftly and robustly.
What we can't accept is people not being able to get to hospital, people not being able to get to emergencies, businesses under pressure, major roads being closed because a particular group has a particular issue, as laudable as their aims may be. So what we need is to facilitate those protests, but we need protesters to understand that they cannot try and usurp our way of life in a democracy by this kind of action.
But Pippa, who campaigns against fracking in East Yorkshire, says the comparison with terrorists is unfair.
To say that these protesters, to put them on a par with terrorists, I think is actually quite disgusting. It's disrespectful to people who've lost people because of actual terrorism, whether in this country or abroad. It also is saying that they're violent, basically, when they're not. These people are not. You know, they are doing what they have to do to draw a light on climate change and what is being done or what not being done.
Whose streets? Whose streets?
Civil disobedience like this may gain attention, but when it causes so much disruption, can it still be justified? Jake Zuckerman, BBC Look North.
Well, Zoe Cohen is from Insulate Britain. Now, they are the group which blocked the M25 in London this week. Zoe, the Crime Commissioner says you should be seen as domestic terrorists. The Home Secretary has called you selfish. What do you say to them?
It's really hard to respond to that, isn't it, Peter? I mean, for those of us who care so deeply about the future of British families, to be honest, we feel it's the government that are the criminals. And Priti Patel herself has a shameful voting record. She's not voted for any of the actions, any of the decisions in government to actually take any climate action. So that's why ordinary people are having to be on the roads of this country to demand that the government insulate the homes of British people, create tens of thousands of jobs, take people out of fuel poverty and reduce emissions.
But people will agree with your cause, but stopping people getting to work, many of whom haven't been able to work for a long time, why not just have a protest on the street? Because this hacks people off.
And we are deeply, deeply sorry for that. Genuinely deeply sorry. But the thing is, unfortunately, Peter, the people in power and the government don't take any notice of us if we have quiet protests. You know, right now, there are people who've been protesting by not eating. They've been fasting for 21 days at Parliament Square, and no one's taken any notice of them. We have to cause disruption.
Let me just come in there, because you know, you say you're sorry, but you didn't have to do it. Gluing hands to the road, people see that as almost childish and pathetic. Has it achieved anything?
Well, in the sense we're having the conversation, aren't we? We're having the conversation about a really practical thing that Boris needs to get on with the job and insulate the homes of British people. It reduces emissions, creates jobs and takes millions of people out of fuel poverty. It's an essential part of what needs to happen for climate action, and this government is not doing it.
But you're worried about the climate, and you've got hundreds of cars there, 2 or 3 days this week, all ticking over on the M25. That's hardly good for the planet.
And that's actually minuscule compared to what we're talking about. All the cars in the country, added up, all the emissions from all the cars, is actually slightly less than our properties put out. The emissions from homes in this country are actually greater than the emissions of all the cars in the country put together. That's why it's so important that we have to Bring these emissions down to zero. It's essential, and the Boris has to get on with the job.
Okay, you've made the political point. Just finally, do you accept that you have hacked people off this week?
Of course, we regretfully accept that this is really, really awful for people in the short term. But what's bigger is the risk that we're all facing from the existential threat of climate change.
Okay.
Our economy and our life is under threat, and we need to take real action, and the government is not.
Zoe Cohen, very good to have you on the programme tonight. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.